explain the plot of the novel Woman at Point Zero. Woman at Point Zero is a novel based on the true story of Firdaus, an Egyptian woman awaiting execution in a Cairo prison for killing a pimp. Her life story was shared with psychiatrist Nawal El-Saadawi. Firdaus grew up in poverty and experienced violence and abuse from a young age, including from her own family. At school, Firdaus saw high intellectual potential and found some peace there. However, after graduating, she was forced to marry a cruel older man, then ran away from home and experienced violence again from the man who helped her. She ran away again and met a madam who introduced her to the world of high-class prostitution. She then became a sex worker and found independence and control over her life. Firdaus tried to leave the world of prostitution because her friend considered her dishonorable and she decided to work as an office employee. However, her effort to become an honorable woman as an employee failed because of the betrayal of a man she loved. Firdaus returned to the world of prostitution without an intermediary until a pimp tried to control her with threats and violence. Firdaus then killed him and turned herself into the police. She refused to accept forgiveness and voiced harsh criticism of the injustice of the patriarchal system. In the end, she was given the death penalty. However, instead of being afraid, Firdaus felt that this was the moment when she was truly free, because for the first time, she could choose her own destiny without being controlled by anyone. Next, I will explain the character of the novel Woman at Point Zero. 1. The narrator, represented by Nawal El-Saadawi as a psychiatrist, has reflective, empathetic, and introspective personalities. She serves as a bridge between the reader and Firdaus' story. 2. Firdaus is an intelligent, independent, wounded, strong, and courageous woman who faced the truth head-on. She represents oppressed women who refuse to surrender and symbolizes resistance against male domination and an unjust social system. 3. Firdaus' father is a harsh, patriarchal, and selfish figure. He is the initial symbol of violence and patriarchy within the family. 4. Firdaus' mother is a passive and submissive figure. She is the symbol of a woman trapped within the patriarchal structure. 5. Firdaus' uncle is a manipulative, exploitative, and hypocritical figure who is religious only on the surface. He symbolizes how sexual abuse can be carried out by family members who are considered caregivers. 6. Sheikh Mahmud, or Firdaus' husband, is a harsh, possessive, and cruel figure. He represents a marriage system that oppresses women, particularly forced marriage. 7. Bayomi is a sadistic, manipulative, predatory, and deceitful character with two faces. He saw how women in patriarchal societies are always in danger, even from people who appear to be helping them. 8. Sharifa is cunning and experienced. On one hand, she empowers Firdaus, but on the other, she continues to threat women. 9. Marzouk as a pimp is exploitative, cruel, and power-hungry. He represents the system that oppresses women through male power. 10. Kermo, who was killed by Firdaus, is exploitative. He symbolizes the system of exploitation of women in the world of prostitution. Next, I will explain the connection between this novel and moderate feminism movement. The novel Woman at Point Zero by Nawal El-Saadawi has a very close relationship with the moderate feminism movement because it deeply depicts the struggle of a woman named Firdaus in facing injustice rooted in the patriarchal system that is strongly embedded in her culture and society. Moderate feminism emphasizes gender equality through changes in law, education, and social awareness without disrupting the existing social structure. In this novel, Firdaus is portrayed as a victim of various forms of violence, from within her family, in education, to the workplace. However, rather than depicting women as a weak figure, Nawal El-Saadawi through Firdaus' story shows the process of woman's transformation in consciousness, leading her to realize her own worth and dare to reject the oppressive system even at the risk of her life. The connection with moderate feminism shows up in how the novel encourages readers to think about the importance of realistic and gradual structural changes like access to education for women, freedom to choose jobs, legal protection against violence, and recognition of women's intellectual and moral capacities. Women at Point Zero serve as a moral and intellectual call to readers to recognize that gender equality is not only a right but also a fundamental necessity in building a just society. And this is achieved not through extreme confrontation but through consistent struggle based on the values of justice and humanity as believed in by moderate feminism. After reading the novel Woman at Point Zero by Nawal El-Saadawi, I gained a deeply meaningful and touching moral message. Firdaus' story not only portrayed the suffering of a woman in a patriarchal society, but also reflects many realities that still exist today, where women often lack full control over their bodies, choices, and life. From this story, I learned that every woman has the right to determine her own path in life without being judged by social, cultural, or religious norms that are often used as tools to justify oppression. I feel that Firdaus' story has made me aware of the importance of standing up for women whose voices are often ignored or silenced by the system. This novel has opened my eyes to the fact that justice is not always found in normal laws, as the system often do not favor victims, especially women. From this, I learned not to accept what society calls truth at face value, but to begin questioning, criticizing, and defending more human values. I also learned that honesty, too painful, is far more meaningful than living in falsehood for the sake of social comfort. The story also taught me that remaining silent in the face of injustice, especially when we know the truth, is a form of indifference that prolongs the suffering of others. Thus, I am driven to be more courageous in speaking out against inequality, more empathetic toward the suffering experienced by women around me, and more active in creating an environment that is fair, equal, and respects the life choices of every individual.